I'm Pawan Kedia, General Performance Planning.
Sir, sorry to interrupt you. See, you're sounding a little distant from the phone.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Pawan Kedia, General Manager, Performance Planning and Review. On behalf of the top management of SBI, I extend a warm welcome to all joining us today on SBI Q2 FY21 earnings conference call. On the call today, we have with us our Chairman, Mr. Dinesh Kumar Khara, Mr. C.S. Satty, Managing Director, Retail and Digital Banking, with additional charge of stress assets, Mr. Ashwini Bhatia, Managing Director, Global Banking and Subsidiary, with additional charge of Commercial Client Group, IT and Risk, and Mr. J. Swaminathan, Deputy Managing Director and Director Finance. Before I request our Chairman to give a brief summary of the bank's Q2 FY21 performance and the strategic initiative undertaken, I would like to read out the safe harbor statement. Certain statements in these slides are forward-looking statements. These statements are based on management current expectations and are subject to uncertainty and changes in circumstances. Actual outcome may differ materially from those included in these statements due to a variety of factors. Thank you. Now I would request our Chairman to make his opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good evening to all of you friends. Thanks for joining the call today. We hope you and your family are safe and in good health. At the outset, I wish to thank all the frontline COVID warriors from medical fraternity and essential service providers who have been working tirelessly to keep the country safe and going during these times of crisis. I would also like to thank all my colleagues who have been working through the pandemic and upholding the bank's commitment to serve its customers. It's a privilege to lead an organization that has been at the forefront of many path-breaking and innovative changes in the Indian banking landscape. Coming to the quarter ended September 20, our assessment indicates an upward movement in economic activities. Most companies are suggesting that activity levels are touching 70-80% of the pre-COVID levels. Vehicle registrations, including tractors, are increasing. GST collections for October 20 has crossed rupees 1 lakh crore mark and is highest since February 2020. These are the telltale signs that the economy is recovering. At SBI, we are witnessing visible uptick in the retail sanctions and the disbursements. I believe the analyst presentation is already available to all of you by now. The disbursements in the home loan as well as other personal segment loans during September 20 are significantly higher than the corresponding period of last year. Another key trend emerging during this period is that our asset quality is holding up well. Our total slippages for the half year ended September 20, including the pro forma slippages, but for the Honorable Supreme Court interim order, stands at 20,781 crores as against 25,017 crores of slippages in the first half of financial year 20. More importantly, we have been able to pull back almost half of these quarter two pro forma slippages of 14,388 crores during the month of October. Also, we have made adequate COVID-related provisions for all slippages during the quarter, and we do not envisage any pressure on our profitability should these accounts get stamped as NPA. Another important feature is the strength of our liability franchise, a key determinant in protecting our NIM even in the falling interest rate scenario, as we have been able to raise adequate low-cost deposits. We have added almost about 1,85,000 crores of savings bank deposit on a YOY basis. We could also raise Tier 1 and Tier 2 capital to the tune of almost about 20,000 crore at benchmark setting rates. We can proudly say that SBI's AT1 offering may well have revived the AT1 market in India. Now, before we go into the numbers for the quarter, allow me to give some perspective into the long-term fundamentals of the bank and how the results should be read in that context. This is an institution unmatched in scale and with challenges that may not have been relevant to most other players in the industry. Even though we have been the dominant incumbent in industry, we have harnessed our opportunities to evolve, transform and create value for stakeholders. For example, let me take you through our evolution in retail lending. At our high base, we have grown the retail book at a CAGR of 20% over the last 20 years. Today, we are the largest home loan provider in the country with very low risk weights, loans to salaried, first-time home buyers primarily. As you would recall, SBI book under moratorium was just 9.5%, and the collection efficiency that is being witnessed is at an impressive rate of 97%, excluding agriculture. This indicates that the profile of our loan customers is very strong. Another shining example of our adapting to changing times is evolution as a digital bank through YONO. We have registered user base of more than 28 million with close to 6,000 customers registering daily. We have a loan portfolio of 25,000 crore and a deposit portfolio of 60,000 crore which has been mobilized through YONO. We are certain YONO will create significant value for all our stakeholders. The past 3 to 4 years have been a blip on the radar of Indian banking industry which went through the most difficult phase of corporate asset quality cycle. However, we took our strong interventions to address the issue like improving our credit underwriting standards and managing risk profiles across asset classes. The returns have since started improving and we are sanguine that we will see better ROA and ROE numbers in the near future. Another major achievement for the bank has been the evolution of its subsidiaries. Subsidiaries are also the leader in their respective businesses. All these subsidiaries have world-renowned partners and top of the board corporate governance and processes. Coming to the quarterly performance, our net profit for the quarter stands at 4,574 crores, which is actually an increase of almost 52% on a YOY basis. Operating profit for the quarter has declined slightly, but that is due to the one-time income of 3,484 crores in Q2 financial year 20 and 1,540 crores in Q2 financial year 21 for stake sale of SBI Life. Excluding these one-off items, our operating profit has improved by about 12% YOY. NIM for the quarter at 3.34% has improved by 12 basis points YOY and 10 basis points over the previous quarter. Retail personal advances have grown by about 15% YOY despite a difficult first quarter, which indicates a strong rebound in the second quarter. While there are clear signs of rebound, it's early to conclude on the possible final impact of this once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. We are watching the evolving situation very carefully and building up adequate cushion to absorb the impact without any volatility in our P&L and balance sheet. I'm sure you must have gone through the numbers by now and must be having few queries on those numbers. I think it would be good for me to open the forum for questions. Thank you very much for attending this analyst call. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question, you may press star and 1 on your touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Anyone who wishes to ask a question, you may press star and 1. Participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question, you may press star and 1. First question is from the line of Mahrukh Adajania from Elara Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hello. My question is on collection efficiency. So could you break down collection efficiency of the morat and non-morat book, and also definition if it's September collections upon September billing, or would it include overdues of past months as well?
Well, Maru, I think when it comes to collection efficiency, the way we have looked at it is the proportion of accounts where the payments are coming in, and we continue to see actually this payment is in the context of what demand we have raised. So which means that whatever EMIs are due and how much payment we have received, so the comparative position of the two has shown up the collection efficiency. So when it comes to the moratorium and non-moratorium book, we are not really tracking on those lines. We are tracking for all the accounts, whatever EMIs are due and how much we have recovered. That is something which we have compared, and that is what has led to this 97% kind of a collection efficiency which we have shown.
Got it. And that 97 is of September, correct?
This is
for the quarter.
This is for the quarter.
Okay, for the quarter. All right. And what would be would you have any rough number for October?
October is the same range.
I think October would be in the same range. I don't expect that it will.
It is slightly.
It is actually slightly better. It has improved to about 97.5 now.
Okay, sir. Sir, and just why would the MSME and Agri NPLs have risen this quarter sequentially? And wouldn't some of the MSME NPLs, wouldn't you have been able to save them with the ECLGS?
Well, Maru, when it comes to our NPAs, just one second. Let me
Page number 2. Yes, next.
See, when it comes to our SME book, there, of course, it is. I would also like to mention that out of this 14,000 odd crore, where we have reckoned as the possible slippages, we have already pulled back about 6,000 crore, and in SME also we have pulled back about 3,000 crore. So actually, as compared to 5,486 in the month of, in the first half of 20, in first half of 21 we are showing it at 6,068, but de facto in the month of October, it has come down to about 2,500 crore kind of a number. So we have actually pulled back SME. And also on the agri book also, it was at 9,513 as on September 30th. We have actually pulled back about 1,100 crores. So it has come down to about 8,400. In agri book, the fact of the matter is that during the COVID period, there was some kind of a restriction on the mobility of our field staff, and they could not visit the field and have the accounts reviewed or renewed. That is one of the reasons why we have seen this kind of a slackness. But I'm sure that as unlock is happening, the ability of our field staff to reach the customers will improve, and we should be in a position to improve the agri quality also going forward.
Okay, sir. Sir, my last question again is on collection efficiency. So, have you seen any segment-wise difference in collection efficiency? Like, have you experienced that the collections in, say, maybe the personal loan segment are better than mortgages? Any such differential that you could comment on?
Maruf, when you have 97.5% efficiency, the difference is very marginal, right? If you really ask me, the highest collection efficiency is in our unsecured personal loans, for obvious reason, because we give only corporate salary package holders. So in home loans, slightly lower than the personal loans.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question is from the line of Adarsh from CLSA. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sir. Congrats on a great set of numbers. One question I had was on the operating expense, the employee provisions that we make. It has gone up in this quarter. Wanted to understand, are there any one-offs, because we are having very strong NII and core fees bounce back, but a lot of that goes away in the employee provision. So if you can just tell what, if there are one-offs, what is it?
There is actually a one-off, and that one-off is essentially coming from the fact that earlier we had made the provision at the rate of the salary increase of 10%, but somewhere end of June or maybe August, we could have the visibility of the revised salary negotiation at 15%. So last quarter also we had provided the difference of 15%, about 1,000 crore we had provided in the last quarter, and this quarter also we have provided another 1,000 crore, and also the related expenses relating to salary cost, about 600 odd crore, which is essentially on account of pension provision, gratuity provisions, etc., has also been provided. So about 1,600 crore is the additional component which we have provided for. So if you look at, the provision for employees, it has gone up from about 4,545 crore in the in the second quarter of financial year 22 to 5,637 crores in the quarter two of 21. So that is the reason that why we have seen this kind of about 1,600 crores on account of these one-time expenses.
So is this one time or will this continue in the third and fourth quarter? Does it stop next year? How should one look at it?
No, see, the point is that when it comes to this increase in salary on account of IBA negotiation, this is only one time and it will stop. But yes, of course, there would be going to be an increased salary bill, which will be about another 2%, 2 to 3.
About 200 crores a month.
About 200 crores a month would be an increase for the salary bills for a month. About 200 crore a month. So which means that about 600 crore a quarter would be the additional cost.
Got it. But it's going to be lower than the one-off that you provided.
Yeah, certainly. So about 1,000 crore would be something which will be one-off.
Perfect. Sir, the second question was when we go through the slide that you've given on the 60,000 crore of expected restructuring and slippages, these slippages are like in the second half going to be 20,000 crores and in the first, so that looks a relatively very low number compared to the kind of pandemic we've had. I appreciate your comments on the portfolio. But it's still a very low number, less than 1% of problem in the second half when all the accounts will start paying all the installments. So is that a very, I want to say, is that a very aggressive number, a cautious number? Because, that's clearly, if that happens, it will be a big positive surprise. So I wanted to understand from that perspective.
See, I think when it comes to this, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that in the last quarter, when we had provided for the loan loss to 9,420 crores, we had actually made a provision for one of the housing loan companies about 3,420 crores. So de facto, that provision number was about 6,000 crore in the last quarter also. This quarter, this number, comparable numbers are 5,619 crores on account of loan loss and other provisions. Actually, this the provision which we have created in this quarter of 7,000, this 4,000 odd crore, 4,083 crores, we could not have shown as a loan loss provision because we have not really stamped these accounts as NPA under the directions of the Honorable Supreme Court. So that is why we have kept it under other provisions. And if we add these two, 5619 plus 4103, it will come to 9,700 crores. And if you compare it with 6,000 which we had made in the last quarter, this will come to about 60% more than what it was in the last quarter. Now, your question relating to this 20,000 crore, whether it is something which could be a reality. See, our provision coverage ratio in the corporate book stands as high as about 88%. So as far as the legacy book is concerned, we have already taken care of to a greater extent. There's hardly any. I don't expect that we'll get to see some surprises. So that is something. And in the past, we have seen that our average the slippages are to the extent of about 10,000 crore. That is a normal run rate per quarter. So irrespective of the kind of book which we have, we are still hoping that we will, our slippages, we have reckoned this to the extent of 20,000 crore. And that is one of the reasons why when it comes to slippages plus restructuring, we have identified this number at 60,000 crore. And if you really look at it, if we have to make a provision of 15% on this 60,000, the total provision will come to about 9,000 odd crores. And we have already provided for 7,091 crores. So with the 7,091 crore, we are de facto left out with the requirement of less than about 2,000 crore. And we have got two more quarters to go. So I think overall, we have tried to assess the situation well. And as a strategy, we have decided that we should provide for upfront. That has been our policy, and we have stuck to that policy.
If If I can supplement, can you just look at the numbers? If you see, what we are actually saying that 13,000 crores would be an additional restructuring book. And 6,000 crores we already have received the restructuring thing. And 20,000 crores would be this additional slippages. So the slippage guidance and including restructuring would be 2.5%. And what we have done in the corporate book is that we have done a very granular analysis. Went to the relationship manager level and asked them to look at their accounts and give us feedback in terms of what is the status of their account. This is from the grounds up kind of assessment to give you comfort. It is not that it is a top-driven thing. We have taken the feedback from the operating level and consolidated these numbers.
Got it. So, and the last question is, your margins did go up again this quarter, strong performance. We did have a pro forma slippage which was 17,000 crores, which we didn't stand because of the Supreme Court. Are the NII reversals, accounted for in the NII, or how, if you could tell, because that had agri, which will have a lot of reversals. So if you can just tell, how should one look at the NII once you account for the...
That amount is about 876 crores. We have identified that amount, but we have not done the reversal. And if at all we reckon this amount also, it will have an impact of about 5 basis points on the NIM.
So that will come in the third quarter, right? So once you recognize all of it.
That's it.
It will come only when its account is stamped.
Because unless and until account is stamped, the reversal cannot really happen. So that is the reason.
You have to wait for the Supreme Court judgment for that. And then in 14,000 crore, it will be net of full back only. Reversal will be for the net slippage.
Yeah, reversal will be, because as I was mentioning, that out of this 14,388 crore, we have already done a pullback of about 6,000 crore. So for all purposes, there is a likelihood that this URI also may not have so much of impact.
Probably 50%.
Yeah, it would be about 50%. So about 400.
This is very helpful. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Next question is from the line of Jay Mundra from B&K Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Good evening and thanks for the additional. I have a couple of questions. First is, sir, on your BSE notes to account, wherein we have mentioned this, the notes to account 12, where the 8 lakh crore number is there in the moratorium/deferment line item. So I believe this is the number which internally system has earmarked those accounts as moratorium, right?
Can I clarify?
This 269? Yeah.
So just to clarify on this, the State Bank adopted an opt-out approach. So technically, all accounts who were eligible is treated as provided with moratorium. So the statutory disclosure which is appearing in the notes to accounts will be for the entire book. But as you would know, we have tracked the moratorium only on the basis of the payment track record. As per the payment, it was only 9.5% as we disclosed in the quarter one, and that moratorium is also now over. So the 8 lakh crore has to be seen from that perspective, that State Bank did not use opt-in but used opt-out. So the entire retail book which was eligible is appearing there in the notes to accounts. So that is not a number which was actually under moratorium.
Right. No. So the question comes now that if an account which system has tagged as moratorium, and because there was no demand which was raised till August end, and now in August when the demand has raised for the month of September, and the person has already paid, let's say, 3 or 4 installments, then in collection efficiency in the numerator, does this 97% adds 4-5 EMI in the numerator, and denominator is the only September one which is raised?
Thank you. You asked this question. Let there be no confusion. When we talk about collection efficiency, it is a demand for the month and collection for that month. So it does not take into account installments that were prepaid earlier.
So not only that, what he is saying that during the moratorium there was no demand, but the demand is not raised for the moratorium installment. When the moratorium got over by 31st August, when we talk about the efficiency, collection efficiency, we are only talking about those installments which are payable.
Yes.
Not if somebody has exercised the moratorium and he has not, he is not due to pay, those installments are not taken.
Right. So that is very helpful. So in your 97% number, there will be no segment or customer where collection efficiency is more than 100%. Right? I mean, mathematically, it could be 97, but at individual customer / segment level, it will not be more than 100%, right?
No, I can clarify this. What you are trying to say is that some customer may be paying more than the demand, whether it is reckoned in the collection efficiency. It is not. The way in which collection efficiency is determined is demand in each account and whether that has been serviced or not. If it is not serviced, then it will appear in the DPD. The DPD is over 7 days, as you know, is SMA 0, and you have SMA 1 and SMA 2. So we track it from the non-payment in the individual account. If some customer has excess paid, that number is not going to offset somebody who has not paid the installment.
Right. So that helps. Thanks for this clarification, sir. That's very helpful. The second question is, sir, in this way, just to extend this, most of the customers then would have paid in full, right? Not this 97% would include some of the customers which may have paid in part. So if you would have that number, so let's say 80-85% are paying in full and the rest are paying in part, would you have any such of numbers?
I think another, just to give some more clarity, this 3%, when we say 3%, 97% means there are 3% gap, right? These 3% are the ones where the DPD is 7 days to 89 days. So it is answering your question. There could be somebody who has paid 2 installments, have not paid 1 installment, or somebody has paid 1 installment, has not paid 2 installment. Every one of them has been covered. So whenever you are saying 97%, that means, that the DPD is 0 in these cases.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
And is it clear to you, or do you want some more explanation?
Yes, it is very clear, sir. And it is a very detailed disclosure that way, that you are not taking the arrears and neither the more than 100% for any customer.
Yeah. You're not.
Yeah. Sure, sir. And if I can ask one more question, sir, on SMA 1 and 2, as MD sir also mentioned that corporate and SME probably they are out of stress zone. So maybe the SMA 1 plus 2 number that go to FILC may not be reflective of stress, because anyway higher than 5 crores customers are reasonably well placed. So and some of the banks are showing the total SMA plus 1 plus 2 number including all ticket size. If you have that broad range also, that will be helpful, sir. Thank you.
To retail, we have not put here. We can furnish.
No, we can provide you that number, because as of now, we will ensure that it's made available to you.
Sure. Thank you, sir, and all the best.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next participant is Samir Bise from JM Financial. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the opportunity. Just wanted to ask, what are the disbursements under the SME guarantee scheme?
ECGLS.
ECGLS.
I think 1,74,000.
In the ECGLS, our total disbursements are 22,000 crores. And the total sanctioned is 25,000 crores.
Okay. Thank you.
1,75,000. What is the total system level?
From the system.
Thank you. Next question is from the line of Ashok Ajmera from Ajcon Global Services. Please go ahead.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And congratulations to you, Khara Saab, and welcome to you. The bank continues to be in a more stronger, good hand. And at the same time, congratulations to you for giving a very good results even in this difficult situation. Having said that, sir, I have a couple of observations and some questions. Now, taking this last before question continuously further, in case of that moratorium which was provided on the working capital interest, where the borrowers were allowed to pay it any time up to 31st March 2021, the August up to August interest. Sir, can you throw some light on that? How much was that amount, and out of that, how much percentage or amount is regularly being paid from September onwards, and how many of them have opted for payment up to 31st March 2021?
Thank you very much, Ajmera sir, first of all, for all your compliments and your specific details relating to the moratorium and how many accounts are on the moratorium and have they opted for payment till March. I'm just trying to get that required information.
Especially on this working capital only, because others are the monthly installment or quarterly installment, but here the option was given to pay the entire amount up to 31st March 2021. So whether it comes in your demand or when you talk about the efficiency, or this amount was not demanded and the option was left on the borrower.
But it was actually forming, it was forming part of the demand. And I think when it comes to collection efficiency, we have reckoned all our portfolios, but for agriculture. Agriculture is the one which is not subject to demand. It is on account of the seasonal repayment. But for that, we have reckoned all other specific segments. So it will be forming part of the demand, but that specific information we perhaps are not having right now. Maybe we'll have it provided to you.
No issue, sir. No issue. I'll take it later. Sir, on this this restructured, the circular of August 6th, I think. What is your experience? I mean, how many people, can you throw some light on that how many people how many borrowers are approaching, because this restructuring plan has to be, have to be almost formalized by 31st of December and implemented by 31st of March 2021. So what is your experience of your people coming forward to take this restructuring facility?
As of now, when it comes to the restructuring of advances, the number of customers who have approached us for restructuring, in all, the number of accounts are 42,000, but when it comes to amount involved, is just about 2,488. That is on the retail side. And almost about 4,000 odd crore is an amount for the commercial clients group, including, the corporate.
Sorry, how much is that? Sorry to interrupt you. That commercial group, how much?
Corporate accounts would be about 4,000 odd crore, and the retail book is just about 2,500 crore. So that is the amount, and that's how it is. It is stacked up to 6,495 crores.
So it's very meager as compared to your total. It shows that the people are not, very encouraged to go for this restructuring. Rather, they would, they feel that some kind of stigma will be there if they go for restructuring. That is what is the general feeling among the people, and that is why they are not coming forward. But sir, my next question is that when you said that retail, this thing on the retail only, if you look at the segment-wise results, while the revenue of retail is almost the same, 19,000 odd crore, the income from the retail business is only 1,000 crore as against 5,000 crore in the last quarter. 4,900 against that only 1,030 crore. So is that there is a more provision in the retail book, or what is the reason of such a big difference in the income in the segment-wise reporting, sir?
Which page you are referring to?
Sir, note number 5, I think segment-wise reporting, that's the next page of your results, where you report segment-wise reporting, like your wholesale book, your retail book.
So actually, the fact of the matter is that our CD ratio is just about 61%.
So basically, sir, it does not include transfer pricing, so it won't be representative of the results, in retail.
Thank you very much. Ajmera, I'll request you to come back in the question queue for a follow-up question. Next participant is Anand Ladda from HDFC Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Sir, just wanted to have clarification on the employee cost side. You said 1,000 crore was one-off cost of that 600 was in the employee pension provisioning and balance was in the employee salary line?
No, actually it was not 1,000 crore, it was 1,600 crore is a one-off, which is about 1,000 crore is on account of the salary increase, which has been negotiated, and about 600 crore is other long-term benefits, which should be available to employees post the implementation of this wage negotiation.
And so this one-off income salary cost won't be there from Q3 onwards, or will it continue for Q3 and Q4 as well?
See, one-off will not be there, but yes, of course, when consequent upon release of the increased salary, the salary bill will go up, and which should be about 200 crore per month. For a quarter, it will come out to about 600 crores.
So from Q3 onwards, employee cost should come down by 1,000 crore rupee.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. And sir, if you can give some color, like this quarter we have some recovery from return of assets of 1,500 odd crore rupee. How do you see this trend in the second half? Also, on resolution of some of the larger accounts which are pending, one being the steel case account, we keep on hearing that Supreme Court will be hearing the case. If you can give some update on that account, as well as on other resolution in the NCLT.
See, we have seen some visibility in this quarter itself. One of the accounts has got resolved. And also when it comes to the other steel account, of course, since the matter is sub judice, I will not be in a position to hazard any guess. And when it comes to what we are also attempting is, if at all we can have the compromises activated, and for that efforts are being put in. As far as the NCLT process is concerned, I expect that maybe by end of this calendar year, perhaps this embargo will be lifted and we'll have a better visibility going forward in terms of the resolution to NCLT also. Now, what we expect is, as far as the recovery in the remaining half of the current financial year. In the first half, we have seen the recovery almost about 4,000 odd crore. Maybe we might get to see a number which is about 6,000 to 7,000 crore in the remaining 2 quarters of this current financial year.
Double whatever we have achieved. So.
Yeah, because see, what has happened is that we did not see much of activity in the first quarter when it comes to recovery. But yes, of course, we have seen better traction in the second quarter when it comes to the numbers are there with you. So we expect that it will further get accelerated in the remaining 2 quarters, and we'll get to see better performance on the recovery front too.
So on the same question, sir, you said 6,000 to 7,000 crore of recovery from return of asset in the second half.
Not written off. I'm only saying that whatever is there in the stress assets group, we are expecting, which would also involve the references to NCLT, and which will also involve our efforts to resolve through compromises.
So a part of that would be from NPA movement, and part of that would be from recovery from return of asset.
Yeah, that's right.
And this includes the steel account resolution as well.
Yes.
7,000 crore rupee.
Yes.
The steel account as well as the housing finance account.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That's from my side.
Thank you very much. Next question is from the line of Dhaval Gada from DSP Investment Managers. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Thanks for the opportunity. 2 questions. First is on the corporate book. So if you look at slide 27, the rating profile of corporate book, the A- and above share has come down to 75% from 78% last year, and similar level in FY19 as well. So just what's driving this downgrade? If you could highlight any specific sectors where we've seen major changes. So that is the first question. And related to the corporate book also, if you could comment a little bit around project pipeline and the growth potential that you see in the next 4 to 6 quarters. Then the second question that I had was on the Express Credit portfolio. So when we look at the bureau data, things are gradually recovering, but in our case, the September growth was significantly higher than pre-COVID level, with 50% plus kind of sanction growth. Just if you could give some comfort around this unsecured portfolio in terms of share of government accounts or any other cuts that you can provide to help us understand what kind of customers are we underwriting in this portfolio? Yeah, those are the two questions. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. So when it comes to the corporate book and the rating profile, it was about AA and AAA were about 60%, and from there it has come to about 57%. I think part of it is on account of the financial position of these corporates, and there is nothing per se which is there. And when it comes to the visibility of the demand from the corporates, I would say that we expect the loan book from the public sector undertakings to really go up in the remaining 2 quarters at least, and we are seeing some sanctions, but there is always a lag between the sanctions and the disbursements. So that is something which we will get to see going forward. And when it comes to the home loan book and also the retail book, there in the personal segment, as of now, our 94% of our personal loan book is from the government servant, and we have got about 1.5 crore kind of the salary accounts with us. And current penetration level is just about 19%. We expect that we can easily take it up to 25%, which means that there is a clear-cut scope for another 30,000 odd crore when it comes to the personal loan book, and we would like to really tap this potential in the current financial year itself. And also the fact of the matter is that this personal loan, when we offer, it is linked to their salaries, and as and when there is an increase in their salaries, their entitlement also goes up. So that also gives us an opportunity for shoring up our personal loan book going forward.
Right. And sir, if I may just add one more point, overall in our retail book, what would be the share of government employees, if you would have that number, approximate number?
In our retail book, when it comes to, I think in the home loan segment, it would be about 50% would be the salaried employees, and the remaining 50% would be...
50% would be government, sir. And 20% would be the well-rated corporate, and 30% would be...
Yeah, actually for all purposes, about 70% would be the salaried, whether it is from the government or from the well-rated corporates, and the remaining 30% of the book will be essentially coming from the businessman and those kind of segments.
But there's very high credit score.
Yeah, but the only thing which I would like to also add here is that invariably our home loan borrowers are the first-time home loan borrowers, and the average ticket size is not very big. So invariably they ensure that they are in a position to meet out their obligation towards the payment of the home loan.
Right, sir. Thank you, and all the best, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question is from the line of Amit Premchandani from UTI Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Good evening, sir, and congratulations for the appointment. And sir, again the question on express credit. So you are saying this 32% YOY growth in express credit is with kind of organic in nature without any reclassification. So that sudden increase in demand of these kind of loans on a YOY basis?
We see, as I mentioned that, it is something which is linked to salary. Of course, these are unsecured loans, but we have got a check-off facility available. So to that extent, we are quite secure in this loan book. So long as people are getting their salary, that is something which gives us an assurance as to the quality of this loan book is concerned.
So to understand, it is linked to salary hike. So a person who is getting, he needs to apply for that loan and then he gets a loan, right? It is not automatically a working capital facility which gets increased.
It's not an automatic facility.
As soon as the salary gets increased.
It is not an automatic facility. Only one thing which we have done is a pre-approved personal loan, which is actually we are running an algorithm, and with the help of analytics, we are only finding out the probable people who can be eligible for this loan. But as far as loan is concerned, it is only dispensed only on application. It's only a means for sourcing the better quality loan and nothing more than that. People have to apply.
So there is a...
And sir, this moratorium applicable till August, almost 14,000 crore has slipped in this quarter if we set aside the Supreme Court stay, largely by agriculture and SME. So can you explain what is the issue on the agri and SME specifically, because agri already had a very high NPA rate?
Yeah, I would like to mention that out of this 14,388 crore, which you are showing in the additional performance slippages, almost about 6,000 crore were pulled back in the month of October. So that way it is just about 8,388 crore. And when it comes to your specific question in terms of the segment where it has seen, just one second, let me just pull up. Yeah. See, in case of SME also, out of the 6,000 odd crore, which is seen as on for the quarter ending quarter 2,
5078.
out of 5078, almost about 3,000 crore we have pulled back. In agriculture, out of 9,045 crore, we have pulled back about 1,100 crores in the month of October itself. So if you compare with this 5,078 crore with, if at all 3,000 crore is pulled back, it is 2,078 crore in SME. In case of agriculture, yes, of course, I think there is a scope for improvement, and that is essentially on account of the fact that in this quarter, the renewal and the review could not be done as it should have been done, because on account of COVID, there was the mobility of our field staff was a bit restricted. So, but that has been ensured now. In the month of October, we have already seen about 1,100 crore being pulled back. And when it comes to the corporate, the book has already seen the reduction, and I think also we have seen the pullback. So I think
800 crore has been pulled back.
Almost about out of 828 crore, which is seen, almost about 800 crore has been pulled back. So I think that's how the complexion is. And also, let me also share with you, it so happens that because of this interim order of the Honorable Supreme Court, we were not allowed to stamp these accounts as NPA. Otherwise, we have got a rhythm over there in the branches where the moment the account gets stamped as NPA, immediately, or maybe if at all it is stamped as SMA1, SMA2 also, our people on the ground immediately get into the recovery effort. So that is something which could not be done because there was no visibility of these accounts getting into stress. So that is the other thing which gives us a comfort that going forward we should be in a position to maintain this asset quality.
Sir, kindly, you have given very interesting chart on ROA and ROE of the bank from 2000 to 2015 and what happened post
sorry
that.
to interrupt you. Your voice is breaking.
It's fine now?
That's still breaking.
It's fine now?
A little bit.
Sir, you have given a very interesting chart on the ROE trajectory of the bank in 2000 to 2016 period and what happened post that. So just to take it from there, do you think that we are likely to move in that trajectory of 2000 to 2015 from next year onwards? Or what is the management thought process behind it?
We are hopeful because we have already seen an uptick, and also the strengthening of processes which have taken place when it comes to the corporate underwriting. This gives us a confidence that maybe going forward we'll have the trajectory which will move towards the earlier trend which was seen. Maybe, it would be difficult to predict that whether it would be by the end of this financial year or maybe in the next year, but it's a concerted effort on the part of the management.
Thanks a lot, sir. That's it from me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question is from the line of Bhavik Dave from Nippon India. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Good evening, sir. Congratulations on a good quarter and on your appointment. A couple of clarifications and one question. One clarification is to an earlier participant who mentioned that including the one large steel account and housing finance company, still our second half recoveries will be around 6 to 7,000 crores. What we understand is...
I must add, it is not housing finance, it is only
the steel.
In fact, both of them are not there in this.
Sorry to actually...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Both those major two accounts which you are mentioning are not part of the 6 to 7,000 what Chairman has mentioned. This is a clarification of the earlier question also.
Sure. So it will be in addition to the two large lumpy recoveries and 6,000-7,000 over and above that, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. And secondly, sir, on the agri bit, we've seen a far higher slippage this quarter. Some bit would be like an overflow from the first quarter, which is generally high on agri. But if you could just talk about, is this because purely the repayments are not EMI led in the agri portfolio, which is crop cycle related? So will that pullback be stronger in this quarter? And also for going ahead, like rural economy has done reasonably well. So can we expect that second half slippages of the 20,000 odd crores, agri will not be a large part of that 20,000 crores? Is that fair to assume?
No, actually, yeah, what you said is right, because what is we are likely to see is that agri, part of it is a recovery and part of it is also the renewal of the accounts also. So if at all account is not renewed, then also it is actually tagged, it leads to downgrading of the asset. So that requires the review and the renewal on the ground. So that is something which we'll get to see in this quarter and going forward also. So hopefully we are quite hoping that maybe we'll get to see a much better picture in the agri segment.
Sure. And then second point is on your corporate loan book. Are we seeing are we able to be in line with the top banks when it comes to corporate in terms of market share incrementally? Because there are a few large private banks that have gotten reasonably aggressive when it comes to corporate business. Are we able to obviously on the rates we would be, but on the growth side, are we able to match them? Not from a percentage perspective, but on an incremental absolute perspective, are we able to match the large private banks?
See, when it comes to their growth rate, because they have got a low base, maybe they will see the growth rate. And we have got a book which is already stacked up, and we have got. So as of now, I think if I may say so, they are probably eating into the market share of the other public sector bank, and that is generally what the trend we have seen on the ground.
Sure. And the last question is on YONO. So we've put an interesting couple of slides on how YONO is contributing to the overall bank. If you could just talk about how is the profitability calculated, or how do you think about YONO adding value to the overall bank in terms of cross-sell or better servicing of the customers, converting customers from dormant to getting them on this platform and addressing the younger population or customer base that we have. So if you could just talk about that. Thank you.
Yeah, see, when it comes to YONO, we have a scenario where we are serving the varied customer base, and considering that in mind, we have to have all our distribution channel in place and robust also. So to that extent, YONO helped us in engaging with the younger generation, and it has been created as a super app, because when it comes to younger generation, they have got very different behaviors. So that is the reason why it is beyond pure banking. And we have seen very good traction in terms of the registration. We have already about 29 million odd customers are already there with us who have registered. And we are opening about 21,000 odd such accounts on a daily basis through YONO, which has helped us in terms of reducing our cost. The pre-approved personal loan, which is essentially analytics based, that also we have seen a fairly good disbursements, about 5,000 odd crore we have disbursed through the YONO. And even in cross-sell also, because it is beyond banking, we are in a position to offer the credit card, insurance and mutual fund. So all kind of products are being rolled out, which are where our subsidiaries are the manufacturers, and it's essentially the convenience which is built in. And now we are taking beyond personal banking. We are there in for agri. We are there for business, and also global. So I think in order to have the mind share of the younger population, this has proved to be an excellent tool for us. On an estimated profitability basis, so we have made some broad assessment. I think going forward, we will probably get to see the becoming even more stronger, and so we'll certainly like to leverage this and also build up our connect with the younger generation.
Sure, sir. And sir, last question is 29 million customers. Will these be what will be the average age of these customers? And obviously, this will be a subset of that 48 million, 400 million customers that we have, right?
You're right. It is actually forming part of the 490 million customers whom we are serving. And the average age, I don't think I have got that kind of analysis with me. But I would say that we have seen the traction across the generations. Not that it is only for the younger generation. Even those who have got accustomed of using Yono, irrespective of the age group and considering the convenience, they all feel very comfortable going to Yono and doing all kind of the banking and non-banking transaction too. E-commerce is very important component of the Yono, and we are seeing a lot of traction in the e-commerce as well.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question is from the line of Nitin Agarwal from Motilal Oswal. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the opportunity. So my question is again on Yono. We have seen significant efforts being invested in building and scaling up this app. And so over the next few years, do you see any probability or any thoughts of unlocking value in this digital capability that you are building?
At some stage, we will certainly consider, but at the material point of time, we will certainly engage with all of you.
Okay. And so the other question that I have is on the current accounts. So after the RBI change guidelines, do we see any benefit trickling to our current account growth in the coming quarters? Any color on how much can the quantum be?
I would not, because this, these results are for the September quarter, so we have not much of uptick which you have seen, because there was some timeline for implementation those current account guidelines also, and it is also subject to review.
Has been extended.
And it has been extended by RBI. Those timelines have been extended. So I think we'll wait and watch. But nevertheless, our effort is, when it comes to current account, we are actually trying to enrich our offering, and we have significantly scaled up our cash management product capabilities, and that will help us in ensuring up our current account base as it is.
Okay. And so lastly, any thoughts on beefing up our capital base?
See, as far as the capital is concerned, I would like to draw your attention to the slide where we have captured our capital adequacy ratio. We are at about 14.72%, and if you look at it, we have recently raised the Tier 2 bonds and even AT1 also, and they have been raised at the pricing which is perhaps the best. And as of now, we feel that the kind of a growth which is likely to happen, and we should be in a position to take care of that growth with our flowback of the profit. We expect that we'll have decent profit, and we'll be in a position to flow back a substantial amount of that, which will shore up our capital. See, as far as the board mandated capital requirement is concerned, it is at about 13.10%. 12.10 is a regulatory requirement, 1% over that. So we would like to keep it at about 14% when it comes to Tier 1 and Tier 2. So I think after meeting our obligation for some of the bonds which are falling due in the last quarter, we should be having a reasonable buffer in our capital ratios. So for the time being, we are feeling that we should be in a position to take care of our growth requirements with the plowback.
Okay, sure. Thanks so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Next question is from the line of Kunal Shah from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for taking my question. So again, coming back on this rating profile, so what we have seen in terms of the rundown in the corporate book of 20 or 1,000 crores, it's nothing to do that this rundown has been in AA category and that is leading to a relatively lower proportion. But you are saying it's largely reflecting the health, wherein we are seeing the movement in A-rated corporates from 11% to 18%.
Go to the slide. Yeah. Actually, rating migration, so there is no major change.
See, when it comes to this book, the major movement we are seeing only in from AA from 34% to 32%, and AAA from 34 to 32, and AA from 26 to 25%, and the remaining is in the BBB from 9 to 12%. So these are the major factors which are. I would say that part of it could be on account of the general health of the corporates also.
And also it could be
No, sorry, I was just referring on a quarter-on-quarter number. So when we look at the June number to September, A is going up from 11% to 18%, okay, and AA is coming down from 30 to 25%. So this quarter-on-quarter movement which is there, is it because of the rundown which we are seeing of this 20,000 crores and it was in AA, or this is again like we are seeing the rundown from AA to A in terms of the rating profile itself?
I think just give me a minute. Let me see. Quarter on quarter also, June 20, our AAA was 33%. From there it has come to 32%. AA, our corporate book was at 30%, which has come to 25%. And A, it was 11%. From there it has gone to 18%. So there is a slippage from AA to A. And also there is slight slippage from AAA to maybe to A or to AA. So that is what it looks like. And when it comes to BBB, it was 10%, which has gone to 12%. So partly it could be on account of re-rating of the corporates also. So as such, when it comes to our portfolio, I don't think it has undergone a change, but our existing portfolio, if at all they have been re-rated by the rating agencies, so that will be something which will be reflected in this.
Another factor which influences this composition is the drawings from the accounts. Suppose the outstandings in a particular group goes down and the outstanding, because see, these are all highly rated companies.
Yeah, these are all highly rated companies, and many of the AAAs don't really raise the money from the bank. They would rather go for the market borrowing. So depending upon, actually, today when it comes to the large corporates, they have an option of looking at the loan book plus the investment book, and also for the specified borrowers, there is a requirement of raising a given amount of fresh funding from the market also. So actually, these are multiple factors which will have an impact on this kind of rating movement and the portfolio color also.
Sure. And this is only corporate; it doesn't include SME.
Yeah, it is only corporate.
Okay. And one more question in terms of fee income. So obviously on the loan processing side, we have seen a sharp traction, and across the board, the overall fee income traction has been quite strong. So this is largely to do with the growth which we are seeing on the personal loan side, and that's the reason. So how sustainable would this be, and is there any kind of a one-off with the loan processing which we are seeing, or this is purely the disbursement number which is?
No, actually loan processing charges is agnostic to the disbursement. Processing charges are as and when the proposals are taken up for the sanction. So I would say that it cannot be linked up with the actual credit growth. Actual credit growth is when the disbursement happens. If at all limits have been sanctioned, so then the loan processing charges are immediately taken from the system itself. So that is how it is. And as I was mentioning that, many of the loan proposals which have got sanctioned, perhaps people are waiting for disbursements. As and when they will have a visibility of the demand, perhaps we'll see the disbursements also going up. This includes both corporate and this includes both corporate and retail.
Yeah, true. And just one last one on Express Credit. So what would be the proportion of salaried within that?
Our Express Credit, 94% is are the salaried employees.
Actually, it is 100% salary.
100% salaried, but 94% are the
government and defense.
Government and defense are 94%.
94% is government. Okay.
Yeah, government and defense.
Yeah, got it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question is from Sumit Kariwala from Morgan Stanley. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thanks for the opportunity. I just had one question. Can you please share details with respect to collection efficiency in key segments? So retail, if you can share that for home loans, autos, personal loans, SME and corporate, it will be very helpful, sir.
We will separately share. We don't have that kind of a stack up available with us segment wise, but we will certainly share with you.
Thank you. That's it from me.
Thank you very much. Next question is from the line of Rakesh Kumar from Systematic Shares. Please go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Thanks for the opportunity. Sir, the one question I had with respect to, difference of PBO and the fresh value of plan assets that was close to around 14,600 crores as on in March 20. So, and this is all-time high, in the recent years. So, where are we right now on this, and have we made any incremental, any incremental provision for that?
No, sorry, we couldn't get.
Yeah, I could not get your question. What you mentioned?
Difference between PBO and fresh fair value of plan asset for the terminal benefit obligations. Difference was around 14,600 crores as on March 20. Where are we now? And on that, and this number was like for gratuity and pension put together, this number was like in the couple of years it is all-time high kind of number. So what is the gap right now? And so just wanted to understand it.
See, what happens is when it comes to the gratuity liability, we strictly go by what the actuarial assessment is. And not that we have got any backlog which we have to take care. It is essentially on account of the yield movement, whatever is the additional provision which has been made. And as I was mentioning that when it comes to our additional provisions which we have made for employees, out of 1,600 crores, 1,000 crores is only on account of the increase on account of the negotiated wage settlement which has happened and which is likely to be signed off. So that is something which is there, and 600 crore are on account of the long-term benefits which will accrue in this wage negotiation. So that is something which has happened. So 1,600 is essentially on account of that.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So what I'm trying to understand is that, sir, this difference has been rising. So either we make provision or we keep more plan asset for that. So what is your thought on that?
Yeah, please. I think we'll just give you the data.
Yeah,
just give you the data. Hello. Yeah.
What had happened is that this gap was in March 19 was 95,000 liability and it went to 1,09,830. But this year, because the discount rate is at 6.83 since March and even in September, so we understand that the gap will be less this year by March 21. This is what the actuary has told us, that the gap would be like less than what the gap was at March 20. Because it is a function of three things. One is the discount rate movement. The second is the pension escalation rate as well as the salary escalation rate. So pension escalation rate and salary escalation rate will remain, which will require more provision. But the discount rate is the causal element for any fluctuation in this, and we understand as per the actuary that this year it will be lesser requirement in terms of the provision which is required for filling up that gap.
Understood, sir. Second, very related question. Now we have, share of alternate channel to total transaction close to around 93% odd. So why don't we free up some employees and, put them into fee income and all, because, we are not witnessing any kind of, decrease in the OPEX, either in the establishment costs or the overheads. So, is that a possibility?
Yeah, we are actually very consciously thinking in terms of it, that we are increasing our employees in operations. So we are ensuring that we should be in a position to really ramp up our sales capability on the ground, both in terms of liabilities as well as for our assets, and also for the other income potential which is available across the country. So we're all geared up to tap such opportunities. Yeah, maybe.
I'd just like to supplement that. See, in the banking we have a ratio known as tooth to tail ratio, where the number of people who are in administration or control roles and the people who are on the sales roles in direct touch with the customers. This year we have been able to sort of reject this equation, and around 20% people, 17 to 20% people, depending upon the different layers of administrative officers which we have, they have been transferred to the customer-facing roles. And some of the activities which we are doing, we are also centralizing and using some sort of outsourcing also. So there is a major revamp plan for increasing productivity and increasing more revenues from the staff which will be going to the fields for marketing, recovery, and other kinds of upselling and value enhancement kind of roles. So we have a proper plan for increasing the productivity of employees so that our income stream from each employee becomes better than what it is now.
Actually, we are also intending to leverage analytics to really conserve cost of acquisition of new business. So that is something that is also what we are planning, and we will be implementing those plans very soon.
Many thanks for answering the question, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Next question is from Anand Dama from Emkay Global Financial Service. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Sir, the collection efficiency that we have mentioned of about 97 odd %, is it only for the term loans, or basically this covers the corporate, the SME, the working capital, for all type of loans?
It covers all kind of loan, but for agriculture.
But for agriculture. And this 97% is in value terms?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Sir, is it possible to share the SMA 0 number and SMA 1 number?
We don't break up facet. We count in terms of DPD.
So actually, I think what you are saying is SMA 0 and SMA 1 for this collection efficiency.
So primarily just wanted to understand, because if some of the customers, if they're not paid, then typically they would be sitting at this point of time into either SMA 0 or the SMA 1. Maybe SMA 2 may not look that inflated, but SMA 0 and 1 should be on a higher side. So in percentage terms?
We have not really looked at it from that point of view. We have only looked at it from the context that if at all demand has been raised, whether it has been honored or not. So that is something which we have looked at.
Yeah, because sir, again that, the way we have seen the economy coming down, and then, there is a disconnect that we see in terms of collections. So do you think that maybe at this point of time customers are paying, but maybe next year is when possibly they will not be able to pay, because there is an impact on the business which would have they would have actually seen. And so because of that, possibly slippages might come up in the next year and not this year, where we are all expecting.
See, the way I look at it is that with the unlock situation, things are improving, and going forward, I'm hopeful that it will further improve. So that is that kind of a scenario we have not yet really factored in. Maybe you would like to.
Yeah. See, additionally, you must also remember what has been our customer profile. I think we take a lot of pains to explain to everyone what is our target clientele. And in retail book, why it is collection efficiency is high. See, if you see, I think a few minutes back, Chairman was mentioning in terms of our express credit, which is the unsecured loan product, 94% of the customers are from the government sector and defense. So they are basically from the corporate salary package account. And we have seen that in the last 12 months, pre-COVID as well as post-COVID, none of them, the salary has been impacted. The level of salary which is being credited to this account, we just did the analysis. In fact, there is no impact on the salary which is being credited to their account. So we are of the view that in future also this is likely to continue. So there is not going to be anything different in terms of collection efficiency in the retail book.
Sure. So basically, I think retail is not really a worry for SBI because I think the book is, though it is unsecured, but it is more or less secured because of the salaried, the customers that you have and most from government. My more concern is about the SME book or the business banking customers that you would have, or the mid corporates operating into the impacted sector like, be it cinema, be it hotels and tourism industries and stuff. So there, how, will they be able to recover what they have lost in these past 6 months? Because they have still not been able to start a business.
So there actually, if you really, I would like to draw your attention to our presentation in slide 27. We have indicated our exposure to the most vulnerable sectors like tourism and hotel is just about 0.47%. Likewise, aviation and airport also it is at 0.47%. So I think that is the other comfort which we have when we look at our portfolio. So that is the reason that possibly we are not visualizing the kind of stress which you have in mind.
Thank you very much. Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Dama. I'll request you to come back in the question queue for a follow-up question. Next participant is Shagun Verma from Goldman Sachs. Please go ahead.
Sir, good evening. This is Rahul Jain. Just had a few questions. On the home loan portfolio, just wanted to clarify the numbers. You said about 70% are from the government and the well-rated corporate, and remaining 30% is self-employed. Is that correct, sir?
That's right.
And so then, can you just tell us, how's been the behavior on the bounce rates, zero DPD, etc. In this portfolio? I understand 97% collection efficiency, which is pretty remarkable, but just wanted to understand on day zero, when the payments are presented, what's the kind of behavior are you seeing from these customers, sir?
So in terms of the product-wise analysis, we will separately share with you. But we have not seen anything significantly different in this segment. So I think the collection efficiency product-wise we don't currently have. We will be able to share with you separately.
No problem, sir. Just also wanted to check, the payments that you collect from these customers, does it get routed through NPCI platform, NACH, or you collect PDC, or it gets internally cleared with your bank?
We have NACH. We are using all kind of options.
But predominantly we have standing instruction, what we call, because we have the salary account, it gets collected from the salary account. And in case of...
No, for the self-employed, yeah.
Self-employed, it is either NACH or the PDC. But PDC is very small in our portfolio.
So NACH would be a large component, sir.
Yeah.
Got it. Sir, the other question is more in terms of understanding your outlook on two things. Number one, the interest rates. There is a huge liquidity, in the system, and clearly I think banks have to cut deposit rate, which is the right thing to do. Where do you see the demand of credit is going to come from if you were to take a 12-month kind of a view? Of course, appreciate that situation is not extremely crystal clear, but based on the traction you've seen so far in the last, let's say a month or two, which segments would SBI focus on, in the next 12 months or so for its credit growth, and what kind of credit growth are you looking at internally?
See, as far as we hope that our retail engine will keep on performing as strongly as it has. And going forward, I would say that we might get to see some traction when it comes to the public sector undertakings, when they will undertake their capital expenditure plan. That is the other growth area which we see. And road construction is another area where we have seen the activity. And also the renewable energy, where we are seeing the traction. So I think these are few areas which I feel are going to have, which will have a major role to play when it comes to the growth in the real economy. And I think apart from that, as we are seeing the revival of the demand, I'm sure FMCG, pharma, they are the other ones where we'll have the recovery also. More availment coming. But typically when it comes to pharma, they are not much on. They don't have much of dependence on the bank credit. And but nevertheless, I think we will get to see better economic activity, and which will give impetus to the growth in the economy.
So we don't need to really, be a little aggressive on the rate front, right? I mean, that is what I was trying to get to.
No, I don't think so, because the rates we have scaled down quite a lot. And let me share with you, when it comes to the investment decisions, people are not constrained by the rates. They are more looking at the demand and their ability to convert their stock into cash. So I think that is what their effort is always. And for right kind of credit risk, we are quite aggressive when it comes to the pricing.
Even on retail side, sir?
Retail side is, we have seen that retail side, our ability is essentially coming from our ability to deliver, and our pricing as it is quite competitive on the retail side.
Got it. So the other question is on the provisioning side. Clearly, I think the guidance you're providing on the stress loan formation, restructuring plus slippages put together seems fairly manageable, and then I think a good job you and your team has done. Getting into the next year, would you have any sense as to what could be the loan losses that the bank might have to incur? Would you be normalizing next year itself, or you might still want to build up more provisioning, etc., etc.? So any sense you would like to give us on the provisioning front, sir?
See, as of now, our PCR stands at about 88%.
Yeah.
And we have, when it comes to our corporate book, we have started evaluating accounts on the granular basis. And wherever we are perceiving any threat, we are already accounting for as far as the provisioning is concerned. So I think this will continue to be our approach going forward. As and when we will see some stress or the likelihood of stress, we will be ensuring that we provide for such accounts, and we ensure that the balance sheet remains strong.
Got it. So just one last question. Sorry for that. But for you as a new chairman, what are the top two priorities, let's say, over the next few months or quarter? Of course, beyond managing the pandemic-related stress. That is it, sir. Thank you so much.
No, when it comes to the priorities, we would like to see that we are in a position to leverage analytics to its hilt when it comes to risk management, when it comes to sourcing awareness, when it comes to compliance. So to that extent, I would like to cut on the costs leveraging analytics. And the other very important piece for me is to see that we're in a position to reap all the growth opportunities which come our way.
Got it. Thank you, sir, and wish you very good luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question is from Roshan from ICICI Prudential Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for taking my question. I just want to understand this. SMA 0 plus 1 plus 2 should be equal to 3%. I'm excluding the agri book in the denominator. Is that the right understanding?
Yeah.
Yes. As of October, it is another 0.5%. It is 2.5%.
Right. Understood. Thank you so much. That's all.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take the last question from the line of Manish Shukla from Citigroup. Please go ahead.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity. On the housing loans, are you seeing good amount of balance transfer from other entities given the rates that you are offering? And is that a strategy that you wish to actively follow?
Yeah. When in the market and being most competitive when it comes to the product, naturally effort is to book the quality business, whatever is available. Maybe if it involves takeover, yes, why not?
But let me also say that predominantly our new customers who are coming to us, number one. The migration from other banks is a continuous process. Takeover also we continuously pursue.
I'm just trying to understand, last 6 months, is it higher than normal run rate of takeover of loans?
That I don't. But nevertheless, we'll just look into.
Yeah.
We look at. We normally don't give specific emphasis on this, but nevertheless, if at all there are opportunities, our field staff is always on the lookout.
Yes.
Right. Moving to profitability, if you have to aspirationally go towards 80 basis points, 90 basis points kind of a ROA, what do you think would be your steady state credit cost when you directionally settle there? I mean, whenever you want to aspirationally get to 80, 90 basis points on ROA from where we are right now.
Directionally, we will like to have our credit cost, of course, less than 2. Less than 2 is something which we would like to have.
Right. And last question on provisions for the first half of this year, total provisions combined all together in P&L is about 22,600, which includes COVID and contingency provision, etc. that you are doing. The order of magnitude for the second half, would it be similar, or you expect the second half to be much lower, given a lot of charges are already taken upfront?
See, if at all I look at it, our estimated slippages plus restructuring of 60,000 crore, and if at all 15% provisioning is a requirement, then it will come to about 9,000 odd crore. And we have already provided for 7,091 crore till the second quarter. So I expect that we should have a lower burden of the provisioning, but much of it will depend upon how the economy evolves.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question for today. I will now hand the conference over to the management for closing remarks.
Thank you very much for your patience, and also I take this opportunity to wish all of you very happy Deepavali, and also wish that all of you stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you very much once again.